Good afternoon and welcome to The Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, July 30th. Trump tells suburban voters they will no longer be bothered by low-income housing. And jailed Portland protesters must agree to stop going to protest to be freed. The Fed holds rates steady and says that economic growth is well below pre-pandemic levels. And a Texas Republican receives a diagnosis during a pre-screening procedure at the White House on Wednesday morning. Some Biden allies wage a shadow campaign to stop Kamala Harris from becoming the vice president. Kentucky says it needs money for a safe 2020 elections after McConnell's stimulus plan omits it. And library proposal on Black Lives Matter prompts sheriff to say he won't respond to 911 calls. President Donald Trump on Wednesday made one of the most overt appeals so far in the campaign to white suburban voters, saying in a tweet that they will no longer be bothered by low-income housing in their suburbs. The tweet comes as polls show that Trump's re-election efforts is faltering in the suburbs, fueled by his administration's failed response to the coronavirus pandemic, the ensuring of a recession, and Trump's aggressive opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement, which polls show that most suburban voters support. Trump's tweet referring to the affirmatively furthering fair housing rule, an Obama-era update of the 1968 civil rights legislation, the Fair Housing Act. The rule required local governments receiving federal funds for housing and development to account for biases, practices, and craft a plan to fix them. Early this month, the Trump administration announced that it will be replacing the housing rule with its own rule, preserving community and neighborhood choice. The Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Ben Carson, said that the Obama-era rule has proven to be completely costly and ineffective. He says, and I quote, "We found it to be unworkable and ultimately a waste of time to comply with, too often resulting in funds being steered away from the community that need it the most." Wednesday's tweet marks an escalation in Trump's ongoing efforts to stroke fear into suburban voters that poor urban residents, who are overwhelmingly people of color, will move to their suburbs if low-income housing is permitted to build in single-family home neighborhoods. In an election year defined by a pandemic, a financial crisis, and racial justice movement, Trump appeals to white suburban voters are a key part of his campaign strategy. Trump's line of attack has been condemned by Democrats and some Republicans who say echoes racist appeals made to white voters during the civil rights era. Not only is this strategy drawing condemnation from across the Republican or political spectrum, according to polls, it also is failing. Okay, I don't even know what to say at this point. I will say this. HUD is a program that helps many people, not just people on some kind of assistance, where it may be welfare or anything of public assistance coming from the Department of Social Services. But it also helps disabled people with housing and people with other illnesses with finding affordable housing. So, and a lot of times this label of HUD being full of black and brown people, it's misconstrued. But I will say, in this is disgusting, because this is nothing but we're going to take those people, meaning people that look like me and others, out of your neighborhoods, so you don't have to worry about them being in your suburban white neighborhoods. That's all that is. That's all he's saying right there. Nothing else, nothing more. I don't even want to hear an explanation. Enough. It's enough already. I mean, he might as well just say he's the KKK or the white power candidate, because I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, I have had it. I only do him because I have to, in a sense. He got elected. He's part of the process, so I have to cover in some aspect. But just wow. Just really wow. I mean, you couldn't get any more clear of clear racial bigoted language than that. You couldn't get any clearer. You'd have to be deaf, dumb, or blind not to know exactly what he was talking about when he said that. And for Ben Carson, who grew up in an urban area, whose mother was on assistance, I don't get him. I really don't. Like, you can be book smart and be dumb as rocks, and I just think you're book smart, but you're dumb as rocks. And I don't know what happened with him, because back in his early years, he would put out all these, Black Power books and books, wanting kids to be proud of their blackness and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't know, somewhere something shifted, but that's it. I can't talk about it no more. Have fun in the chat talking about it, but I can't with this guy. At least 12 Black Lives Matter protesters released during an ongoing demonstration in Portland, Oregon, have been told not to attend protests as a condition of their release from jail, something which may have been a violation of their First Amendment right to free speech and assembly. Defendant may not attend any other protests, rallies, assemblies, or public gatherings in the state of Oregon, states a document entitled Order Setting Conditions of Release. The document is given to the arrested protesters to sign before they are allowed out of jail. Though the conditional release orders were signed, it is unclear whether the magistrate or the Justice Department official added the conditions forbidding arrestees to attend future protests or public gatherings. Several of the orders had conditions written on it before given to the magistrate for signatures. According to the investigative journalism, the nonprofit ProPublica, some of the orders forbid defendants from attending protests in all of Oregon, while others only forbid protesters in Portland, or don't specify any demographic area whatsoever, stating do not participate in any protests, demonstrations, rallies, assemblies while this case is pending. Several protesters told ProPublica that they felt that they had to accept the conditional release or else remained in prison indefinitely. Many of the protesters facing these conditional release were often charged with petty offenses, such as failing to obey a lawful order or disorderly conduct. Okay, so this story is quite troubling. It is troubling for two reasons. One, it's definitely taking us as a country into more of authoritative dictatorship kind of realm, because it is violating on First Amendment rights to the freedom of speech and assembly, right? And two, I don't know if you all remember, but just a couple days ago, Donald Trump's former fixer lawyer, Michael Cohen, had sued the Justice Department, i.e. the Attorney General Bill Barr, for this NDA kind of document that he had sent to Michael Cohen through his probational officer, basically saying that he could not talk about the Trump book that he has coming out, nor could he talk to any media outlets. And if he refused to sign and agree to this document, then he ended up back in jail. He wound up suing the Justice Department. The judge said, nope, let him out. And he got sent back home to home confinement, right? So the reason why I brought that up is because Bill Barr, the Attorney General, when he was asked just yesterday about if he had anything to do with that agreement that was sent to Michael Cohen to coerce him not to speak about the president or end up back in prison, he said no, he didn't have nothing to do with it, had no idea. Now, fast forwarding to this situation here in Portland, these documents that people have to sign in order to be freed, basically saying that they cannot protest at all. Some of them are saying anywhere in Portland, Oregon. Some are saying anywhere in the state. That if any kind of assembly, any kind of protest, that they will be in violation and end up in jail. And people felt like they had to sign it because they were going to, give them time for the little petty charges that they try to put on them, disturbing the peace, so on and so forth. Now, the reason why all this is interesting is, again, because what I said earlier, the Justice Department claims that they have nothing to do with these little extra tidbits about not protesting at all. And if you protest again or do some kind of assembly, you will be charged and go to jail. Same kind of language a little bit. And also the documents were sent by someone in the Justice Department, although the Justice Department said they didn't know nothing about it, because before the magistrate had gotten these papers with the little extra signature, the information was already on it, so it had to come from somewhere, and it usually comes from the top. So someone in the Justice Department had that forwarded to be added to the documents that you sign upon release. I'm just saying, they are really making this an uphill battle for just democracy in and of itself, slowly chipping away at it and making it more like Russia. I don't know what to say. Like, I really don't. This is an unprecedented time in which your rights are being taken away with the threat of imprisonment. That's crazy. That really is crazy. That happens in other places, not the United States. Not even since the modern era of the United States, I'll say. But it's really, wow. It's really crazy. Really crazy time. Ooh. The Federal Reserve held interest rates steady in a decision announced on Wednesday that came along with a tempered look on the coronavirus-plagued economy. In a move expected, the central bank kept its benchmark overnight lending rates anchored at near zero, where it's been since March 15th in the early days of the pandemic. Along with keeping rates low, the Federal Open Market Committee, which set monetary policies, expressed its commitment to maintaining its bond purchases and the array of lending and liquidated programs also associated with the virus response. Overall, financial conditions have improved in recent months, in part reflecting policy measures to support the economy and the flow of credit to U.S. households and businesses. Markets reacted little to the news, with stocks mostly holding early gains and government bonds yielding mixed. However, the committee did not provide any further indication of what it would take to change rates. Markets have been looking more enhanced forward guidance to indicate what unemployment and inflation metrics might trigger a change. Wall Street anticipates no changes and even is pricing in a chance of slightly negative rates ahead. Okay, so this story is pretty interesting because who doesn't like to talk about money? The Fed has the interest rates down to about zero, and they're going to keep them there for a while. Being that it has been somewhat of a decline in the economy, of course, and in employment due to the coronavirus. But there has been, somewhat of a pickup in the last few months. They're keeping it at zero, although it is still below, like we are way below where we should be, even where we were in the beginning of the year. It hasn't been at zero this low and stayed at zero since like the Great Depression. So it's definitely not good, but it's not horrible. There is time to kind of get on an uptick. Now, this all depends on also what this president does. If unemployment gets worse, so there's a lot of factors, but the Fed is kind of leaving room for error right now, and we'll see how this goes. They're basically chopping up or canceling out 2020 and looking towards 2021, 2022, to where in which they will actually see GDP back again, because they've basically chopped up 2020 as a loss. And this is important for all of us who have 401ks or some kind of investment things. These are the times where you want to you want to sell, you want to do away with it, but there are also times where you have to kind of buckle down and pray everything comes out all right and you don't lose too much. But right now, things seem to be staying. The Fed is going to keep it at a zero rate. We'll see how this goes. But again, all of these things are factors. Employment is factors. Because, again, like I've always said, due to this virus and the stipulations it has on crowd size and all that, a lot of jobs are going to be cut and things are going to be cut back. This may drive the market to fluctuate. So I'll be curious to see what they do. Like I said, they've kind of chalked up 2020 as a loss, and they're looking to 2021 and 2022 to hopefully bring us out of this post-virus. So we'll see. We shall see. I don't know. I really don't. It's worrisome altogether because it's so many things that play a factor in the financial market that you could never be too sure. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But unemployment and inflation, those are the biggest triggers. Representative Louie Gohmert, a Texas Republican who has been walking around the Capitol without a mask, has tested positive for the coronavirus, according to multiple sources. Gohmert, who was scheduled to fly to Texas on Wednesday morning with President Donald Trump, tested positive in a pre-screening at the White House. The 8-term Republican told CNN just last month that he was not wearing a mask because he's getting tested regularly for the coronavirus. He also told CNN that if I get it, and I quote, he told them in June, "You'll never see me without a mask." In May, Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell turned down the administration's offer to rapid testing for the Capitol. Some lawmakers, mostly Republicans, declined to use face coverings while in the building. Gohmert attended Tuesday's blockbuster House Judiciary Committee hearing with Attorney General Bill Barr in person, where lawmakers were seated at some distance from one another. It's so funny when a lot of these politicians say things because they think they're gaining points with the president, and then they have to walk back their statements because they just do. Well, that's kind of sort of what happened to the Republican representative Louie Gohmert. He basically was talking all this smack about, he doesn't have to wear a mask because he's tested all the time because he's always in the White House. And, he didn't feel like he needed to wear a mask because the president didn't wear a mask. Like that was weak. So on and so forth. Just all the same stuff that the president was toting. So just recently, and he's walked around the Capitol on the floor, whatever, with no mask, just willy-nilly. But it recently has been reported that this man has tested positive for the COVID-19. Now, Dum Dum thought he was gonna go fly into Texas this morning with the president, and he got a rude awakening that he could not go because when they tested him, he tested positive. So then now he changed his tune, but he did tell CNN, I don't need to wear a mask, but if I do happen to get it, you always see me in a mask. Well, now we hope to always see you in a mask because you are positive. And not only that, because of your positive result, Nancy Pelosi has now made it mandatory that you must wear a mask on the House floor. So thanks. Now that you've infected a lot of our representatives, possibly, allegedly, we'll see how this goes. But the lack of respect, the lack of concern for oneself and your fellow colleagues, as if someone's mandating you to wear something or making you wear something and you're going to fight against it, but it's for the greater good of the nation because you all represent the people. So why would you not want to protect yourself and your fellow colleagues in Congress? It's a bit ridiculous. But yeah, the dum-dum Gomer Pyle, as I like to call him, has definitely got COVID. And all that smack talking you was talking, and you wind up getting it. That's why you should just keep your mouth closed sometimes. They should try that. It works. Some of Joe Biden's allies are waging a campaign behind the scenes to stop Senator Kamala Harris, the Democrat out of California, from becoming vice president. This disgruntled group of at least a dozen of Biden backers, including a few of his top donors, initiated the move against Harris close to a month ago, just weeks before a decision is expected, according to people with direct knowledge of the matter. Many people who have spoken to CNBC declined to be named, as these efforts were made in private. In some cases, her foes have taken their concerns directly to members of Biden's VP search committee, led by former Senator Chris Dobbs, the Los Angeles mayor, Representative Blunt Rochester of Delaware, and Cynthia Hogan, who previously served as counsel to the presumptuous Democratic nominee when he was vice president under President Barack Obama. Although none of these actions signify that Biden will drop Harris from the list, the move gives a glimpse into the efforts being waged to derail her candidacy. Some remain bitter about her attacks on Biden during the primary debates last year, saying that she brings into question her loyalty to the former vice president. Others argue that she's too ambitious and that she will solely be focused on becoming president herself. Many of these Biden associates have been pushing alternatives to Harris, such as Representative Val Demings of Florida, Representative Karen Bass of California, and former U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice. Also, Senator Tammy Duckworth. The group of donors tried a similar tactic earlier this year against Elizabeth Warren, who has openly said that she would accept the offer to be Biden's vice president. Representatives for Biden and Harris did not respond to requests for comment. Okay, so here we go talking about this secret derail campaign to knock Kamala Harris off the short list for VP. Now, I don't know if some of you tuned into my Politics and Wellness on Tuesday when the question was asked, who will Biden pick? And my choice was that he would probably go with Kamala. And politically, you look at her line of work, her body of work, what she's done, her interactions with Biden, so on and so forth, and kind of correlate like, okay, she would be a good pick. My overall assessment, they looking a bit at the obvious. They ain't going too deep. They're looking at what would resonate with the same people that they lost to in 2016. And if we're dealing with racial issues at this moment, that seems to be the focal point, then they need to go with someone who will ease that racial tension in their eyes for them. And she would be the pick for that. She is multiracial herself. Her husband is Caucasian. So, it's an easy pick for them. I guess some people picked up on that and, have tried to derail her being the choice for VP. And I'm sure people have their reasons, but the fact that it's been a secret event to get her knocked off the short list must mean that some people must know that she is definitely in the running to be his running mate. They did have other people brought up. Val Demings, Representative of Florida. I think I saw Susan Rice, Senator Tammy Duckworth. Who else? I know I'm missing someone. But yeah, I just and they did the same thing to Elizabeth Warren. That was surprising to me because I really thought if Elizabeth Warren was not going to be Bernie, that's what I meant to say. If Bernie Sanders would have won the nomination, then Elizabeth Warren would have been his running mate. I'm pretty sure about that. However, with Joe Biden, not so much, but she was that she was open to the offer if she received it. But I don't think he was considering her. But I could be wrong. But I didn't see that. But I could be wrong. But anyway, yeah, so I just feel like that's a low blow. That is a real low blow. Let's be very clear. Biden is up in age. So anybody who is his VP should be looking at ascending to the office of president. He's almost 80 years old. Like, how 4 years would probably be enough. 8 years, I think, would be too much on somebody that age to run the country. And I don't even think he is thinking about a whole 8 years. I think he just wants to do the 4, and he'll probably just step down. I'm thinking, I believe he should. I believe he should just do just that. Do the 4, get that thing out of office, and then let somebody else do it. It takes a toll on you. Everybody goes in with dark hair or few grays and come out looking like, woo, because it's stressful. So, you just want to, you don't want to drag nobody in the ground. And being that, he's already older, you don't want the office of the presidency actually kill him. And he will actually be, when inaugurated, get that, he will actually be the oldest person to serve as president of these United States. So it's. As Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's stimulus package relief continues to fumble in the Senate, Kentucky's top election officials say that the federal government has to provide more aid to safeguard the 2020 election. The Kentucky Board of Elections wrote in an op-ed for the Lexington Herald on Tuesday that lawmakers in D.C. must act now in order to preserve the integrity of and faith in our electoral process. With Congress currently considering another round of federal relief, it is vital they allocate funding to our nation's election officials. If we are to ensure the integrity of the ballot and the security of our democracy. House Democrats, on the other hand, have set aside $3.6 billion in election aid for state and local governments as part of their Health and Economic Recovery Emergency Solution Act. Democrats also called for a nationwide vote-by-mail option and a guarantee of 15 days of early voting. The legislation was deemed dead on arrival in the GOP-controlled Senate. So far, only aid that has been given to states to adjust for election procedures amidst the coronavirus health crisis was $400 million included in the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, known as CARES, passed back in March. However, experts say that at this time, that amount was not nearly enough to help states prepare for November's voting. Okay, and as far as this story is concerned, there is definitely something brewing in the air. Okay, so we all know, or some of us do anyway, that Republicans' famous line is always put America first, always the very more patriotic group out of the two major parties anyway, that we do have in this democracy. they always tote themselves as being very patriotic and all about America first and America, America, America. But isn't it funny how these same Republicans choose not to safeguard America's very fragile democracy at this point? Here you have Mitch McConnell, who is actually up for re-election this year in 2020 in Kentucky, and his electoral board is saying, hey, we need funds to secure the integrity of this election coming forward. Basically, we need to make sure even you are okay. But he must be very secure in whatever deal he's made with a few of Trump's Russian friends, that he is not concerned about the state of our elections for this coming election year, even though he himself is on the ballot. And you would think that because he's on the ballot, he would want to ensure that the election goes smoothly and he gets the votes that are due to him. But something lets me believe he's in for it. He's in with whatever it is, whatever scheme it is, he is down for it. They probably don't already have something in the works to be rigged, and he's all for it. Because I can't see how your own state is asking for more funds and you turned a blind eye to it. You only give $400 million and put it in a relief aid pack, the same relief aid pack that was even given to some of those businesses, like the one where the dude bought the Lamborghini and asked for $13 million and got $3 million. Crazy. But anyway, yeah, we just need to pay attention. We need to really focus. We need to vote. If you're going to do mail-in, vote.org. It is in the chat. Click it. You know your deadline dates. It even tells you where you can go if you actually want to do an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot, where you can even drop off the ballot if you don't feel safe mailing it. You can drop it off at the proper location, and it tells you that on the website when you put in your state. So yeah, we need to definitely do something to safeguard our own election and our own voting power, because obviously this administration and these Republicans that march behind the banner of Trump are not. A Nevada County's library proposed statement in support of the Black Lives Matter prompted a local sheriff to warn that his office would not respond to its 911 calls. We support Black Lives Matter, the Douglas County Public Library said in a proposed short statement released last week at the end of a meeting agenda. We assert and believe that all forms of racism, hatred, inequality, and injustice don't belong in our society. The Sheriff Dan Coverly in the county that is about an hour south of Reno responded in a letter to the library's board of trustees that called the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis police custody a tragic and preventable. And he went on to argue that data simply does not support the claim that law enforcement is systematically racist or structurally biased. Now this story, and excuse my face, but this story, I just find it to be a crock of baloney. And I'll say why. Alright, so you are an officer, you are to protect and serve, right? You are to protect and serve all of its citizens, right? Even the ones that may not like you. You're still supposed to protect and serve them, correct, right? Right. That's what you took the job on to do. Every day is not a glorious day. Every day you won't be celebrated, and so on and so forth. But you still do your job, right? Right. So because this library in particular chooses to stand with a movement that is asking for equality and the decrease or the complete stoppage of police brutality. And if that means defunding the police, not getting rid of it, but taking some of your money out of your pockets and actually putting it somewhere where it can be utilized. This sheriff says, well, if that's how you feel, and I'm paraphrasing, but if that's how you feel, then when you call 911, I won't answer. And everybody was a bit taken back. Then, of course, the police department made a statement, and the statement went something like, well, in these trying times, you know, the sheriff is very passionate about what he does, and he feels like the department is under attack. And to that, I say this. Bullshit. Okay? If you stop killing folks, unarmed people of color, if you stop the aggressive tone and nature in which you handle people of color, there would be no need to have a movement asking if Black Lives Matter, because they would. There would be no need for all of these people, young and old, to have lost their lives in the custody of a group that is supposed to protect and serve them, regardless of their crime or lack thereof. You are still supposed to protect and serve. They've become the judge, jury, and executioner before a trial or a court date is even filed. So it really chuckles me how law enforcement can do one thing, then get in their feelings when you don't necessarily see it for them. And this particular library, not that they didn't see it for law enforcement, but they felt that the movement, because that's all it is, it's a movement, is more important at this moment due to what the library in nature is supposed to do and what it's about. Inclusion, exploration, learning, growing, diversity. Those things that are not usually in police departments. So I don't know. I just don't feel it was right. And it was a quick walk back and just understand that I feel like the department is under attack. Well, how do you think people of color feel every time they get pulled over or they say something that the police officer doesn't like? Or the police officer themselves, like the one in Virginia, felt like he didn't want to hear what that young man had to say. He was just going to rip him out of the car and then tell everybody on his Facebook to watch and enjoy the show. What show? Oh, you mean the same show we watched with George Floyd lost his life? That show? We're tired of those shows. We shouldn't even be having to have those shows. But the fact that we do, it's a problem. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.